Well, now that we have a running engine, watch the M18 rebuild series if you're curious. And there it is on the test stand. Got about 2.5 hours on it. It's all tuned up, ready to go. The next thing to figure out is how to fix these mangled mess of a shroud thing that came with it. So we've got the bottom plate here, which I have done a little bit of work to off camera. It is straight-ish. Again, it was all mangled. And then we have this huge honking assembly here. And you can see right off the bat, there's some obvious problems with it. We've got tabs that are broken here. This tab right here is broken. I think we've got that one's broken too. Right there. It should be, looks like it should be held on in 3 places. And over here, same deal. Just held on in 1 place. These guys here go over top of the exhaust manifolds there, which is why they're such a funky shape. And then the previous owner decided that using the factory attachment points was no good, so they ran self-tappers. Looked like, actually looked like roofing screws that they ran through the panels here. They did the same thing down here. That's not factory. You can see they want chonky here. Yep. And they went chonky over here with some screws. These weren't even, I had to actually do some work to the engine shrouds already on the cylinder head side. These weren't even bolted in at all. They were just kind of flopping there. So I got them to bolt up. So the sequence will be get everything to rough fit. And so far the engine is rough fit, and now the exhaust side of it, the big heat baffle here, has got to be rough fit into place. And then we'll probably pull them back off now that the engine's been tested. And I wasn't going to paint them, but the more I look at it, I mean, back here where I think this was right where the battery tray was. I think that's a bunch of battery acid that had leaked on it. And just as concerning to me, aesthetically, is this stanky rattle can overspray from the frame, where they tried to paint the frame. It just, I'm more function over form, but that just bothers me. So I'll probably pull them off and sand them and paint them, and let's get a coat of something on there so at least they're all one color. We might go through and plug weld these areas here. We're definitely going to have to do some welding here on this guy. This one's going to be tricky. So I'm going to set you up in the camera or set you up in the stand. I'm going to try to get this one to fit somewhat goodish. See if I can see which areas are needing the most attention. So the way this works is this one here has a tab that bolts to the block right here, like that. And then this one's got a slot that bolts in to the shroud. So this connects to the shroud here, and this connects to the block here. And then those are the only 2 things holding it to the engine. And then you've got these, which I've taken off the little clip nuts for, but these basically bolt to the main assembly, and then the main assembly is attached to the engine up here by the exhaust. It's been mangled pretty bad, so it's gonna be a little tricky to get it all figured out, but this one kind of would fit. This one is a little more concerning. They've also done something with the exhaust pipe here. This is not in the right location. And you can see the front of the shroud. Sat on the exhaust and just rubbed for, who knows how long, just rubbed a hole right through the exhaust. So you got these little spacers here. I think I've got everything in place. This is tricky though, because I don't really know exactly how it's supposed to fit. The first issue is getting it. I think I got to get this side in first. This is the one that's got all the stuff to go around. Nope. Not happening. Why not? Well, lots of reasons why not. First of all, you can't get it past that. So that's a problem. How's that supposed to go? You know what? This is so floppy now, it's not even going to tell me anything. Because these are moving so much, it's not even going to tell me what needs moved on the shroud, because these are just independently moving. So let's weld those back in, and then we'll try again. I'll be back. I'm just going to weld these tabs that are bad here. All right, I got them all the tabs around nice and flush and clean. Just going to put them back where they came from, and then we'll start adjusting some of the sheet metal. Oh yeah. The whole thing is just fucking covered in old grease. And I've already wiped it down once, but feels pretty goodish. Touchy stuff. It's thin. Does not want to move. Or does not want to take any heat. Whew. That in? Yeah, kind of. Okay, now I can bring you in and show you. Those tabs are in. This one broke flush right at the corner, so that was a little difficult. I had to double pass that one. And these are just dark, nasty, gross areas to be welding in, and there's still a bunch of crap in there. You can see the porosity in that one there, where it found some old grease and started bubbling, but it'll work for now. And if you look down from the top, this one actually doesn't look too bad. This one looks like it's pretty close to being where it was. You got a little bit of an overhang past the edge there. But this one's like bent and mangled still, and I'm not quite sure. See how it's like, it's not really recessed past that edge? I'm going to try to match that one to that one so that they're kind of getting this flange in this area here. You see that corner? This looks weird to me. Like right here, that angle doesn't look right. I think this whole thing's like shifted. This one's not as bad. So, play around with that and we'll throw it on there. Try to straighten this out a little bit here. I think hammer and volley. Here. Over here it's pretty mangled too. I don't know. I think this whole thing needs to go back in a little bit. And then we've got, this is actually bent right here too. Flip this up. This right here. Yeah, you can see it from the top down. It's actually a little better. You get a little better eye for the geometry here. That's still bent. It's bent in here. It's been out here. And you got a gap there. This one's not too bad. Tell you what, before we start making any more adjustments, let's take it over to the motor and see what it looks like. I expect things not to fit very well, but we'll see. That one's over there. This one, man, how are you supposed to get that past there? Is the air cleaner not supposed to be on or something? Does that help? I mean, it helps a little bit, I guess. Not much. So we're coming past that edge. And we're going. Nope, we're stuck. How are we stuck? Oh, there we go. So that's kind of where that would be. This is kind of not where I think it would be. Okay, well, they're on there. It looks like, yeah, we're rubbing here. Oh, shoot, we're rubbing there, too. And we're in. We're mounted in here. I think what I'm looking for now is to see where things are rubbing. And so far, it looks like I think we're rubbing on that bolt right there. And we're touching right there up against the case. We're clear down there where that little tab sticks out to the side. And back here, I think we're clear of the valve cover. Yeah, it's kind of hard to see. All right, I'm going to fiddle with this a little more and then we'll come back because I'm going to need full access to it, and you probably don't want to just see me bent over trying to fiddle with the thing. So, okay, so it took quite a bit of fiddling. I'll go through some of the problem areas that I had, and also show you some of the things that I did to address those problems. So we have a full assembly on now, including the lower piece there. Up in here is so there's quite a few places of interference. This cover is really made tight to fit around all of this stuff down in here, and it basically goes all the way around the case here. So there's a cutout there, there's a cutout there, there's a cutout there, there's a cutout there, and then back here it's got a little baffle that goes right underneath the dipstick, and then it comes back around here. It gets tight again right here, right around the valve cover. And this valve cover can shift a little bit side to side when you install it. And I kind of justified it to this outside edge to make sure I had enough grab. So that actually ended up interfering a little bit down here. So rather than trying to adjust the valve cover, I notched a little extra material out of that area down in there. And then it's tight down here. It's just tight everywhere. You can see it's almost resting on the shroud right there, and it's not resting on the shroud right there. And then on the other side, it likes to hit this bolt right here. So the flange just kind of hits it. It just barely clears the valve cover bolt there. And then down here, we're pretty clear on this side. This side's just less bent and less fiddly. So a process of taking it on and off probably 15 times. I clocked the filler tube here so that one of the problems I was having was that trying to install the muffler around the filler neck, it kept hitting right here. So I clocked the filler neck a little bit to the side. It just barely clears the air filter now, like barely. It's just a tight fit, man. So now we're almost flush against the shroud down here. I've added back the bend to the very bottom of the plate, and then it took another exercise in patience to get everything to fit in here. So this bottom plate is held on by, let's see how many, there's 4 screws on this side, and there's 4 screws on this side. And these are just temporarily in place right now. I won't use bolts that are that long. But you have one up underneath here, right over by the starter. So I bent that flange and got that one to fit. And then over here, it makes another bend and comes up around the shroud. And you have a bolt over there in the back corner, and then 2 bolts here. On this side, you've got a slotted opening in the very rear, underneath the oil filter remote lines. And then you got 3 bolts here. This one took quite a bit of moving back and forth. The whole assembly had been kind of wonky. It's not absolutely perfect, but it does fit, and it's nice and tight. There's still a little bit of, there's a little bit of vibration, but it's not terrible. So you can see now the flange the 2 flanges pretty much line up with each other. There's a little bit of tweaking still to do. I gotta get some of this bend a little more correct over here. And I am gonna go back and plug weld all those holes. Over here, the fitment's a little different. You can tell it's not perfectly symmetrical because the tab goes further over the lower baffle plate on this side. But it's not terrible. It'll definitely function. And if you look at the whole assembly, it's really not too bad. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come around with a hammer and kind of roll all these edges as much as I can with everything in place. And then I'll probably take it back off and do some final clearance modifications for this area here. So I've got to get the one right next to where I pinned the governor shaft, right where that bolt is, or that screw. I've got some work to do right there. I've got a little bit of work to do a little further down. And I don't know if I'm just going to notch around that bolt or what. It's weird because I don't see how this thing could have fit without hitting that. But again, the whole thing was tweaked, so who knows? So I'm going to pull it back off, and we'll take it over to the bench.